The Hunter Biden whistleblowers and their defense team put together an amazing timeline that chronicles exactly how the DOJ, the IRS, the FBI covered up the Hunter Biden laptop. It's quite good. We're going to read through a bit of this, but I want to reference you over to empower.us. These are the people who are representing Gary Shapley and the IRS whistleblowers fighting back against the Biden crime family. And they assembled this very nice summation of it. And I want to share it with you because I was going through it and I was very surprised by the level of detail. Here, they say, Power Oversight has released a detailed timeline. You're not kidding me. Look at the length of this thing. As it relates to the whistleblowers and the testimony from Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler. And of course, when we talk about Hunter and Joe, and when we talk about impeachment inquiries and these types of things, we're talking about multiple different layers here. The Democrats like to reduce everything into, well, Joe Biden never got a Venmo transaction, or Joe Biden never carried out a big check out of the lottery ticket that says in the memo section from Hunter. And they want to see that stuff. But we've got not only Joe's criminal conduct as it relates to selling out America, meaning with Hunter and exchanging the brand for value, but we've also got a whole level of obstruction and crimes that are the executive administration, or in this case, Biden, lying to us and obstructing the investigation into those other crimes. So you have the base layer crimes in the first place. And then when we start poking around, then they deviate us from those base layer crimes. That's another problem as well. And that's really what this is focused on. And for some reason, what they constantly say is that this category of other problems like obstruction or interference or any of these other ethical, illegal, clear examples of misconduct are just not relevant. They only want the big check. That's the only thing that matters to them. Of course, they know better than that. That's just their talking point that they use for dumb people who don't know better. Of course, that's not us here. But this is what the detailed report says. The timeline is based on public documents, including media reports and the special agent's congressional interview transcripts, which were lawfully released by the House Ways and Means Committee, and they say this timeline is a living document. It's going to be edited and updated as more information is shared. And so we'll go through a bit of this, but I want to just show you the details, okay? It's going to walk us through, and we'll hit all the way up until about 2021 when they keep David Weiss on. But look at this. It goes all the way through 2021 into 2022. Then we go into 2023. All of this is detailed, and look, my friends, footnotes. So for all of those people on the left who say, well, there's no evidence at all, there's nothing going on here, we can't see no smoke here, this shows you. It chronicles the obstruction, the interference, the unethical misconduct from the Biden administration and everybody involved in this. And here are all the footnotes, and they're referencing a lot of the transcripts. This is a monster document, okay? So somebody can just print this out and send it over to Adam Schiff and see if he wakes up. I don't believe that he will. But here is what it says. Now, starting back in 2018, it starts with Joe Ziegler. He's one of the IRS whistleblowers. He opens up an investigation into Hunter Biden. Why? Hunter was paying prostitutes and living lavishly through a corporate account. So Ziegler opens up the investigation. Shortly thereafter, Delaware FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office then open up an investigation into Hunter, bank reports, and money laundering. This all sounds kind of standard. Joe Ziegler, who we already heard testify, sees a problem. They open up a case. Then the IRS comes in. They refer Hunter's case to DOJ tax. They say, uh-oh, send it over there. DOJ leadership then, they make the decision. They get the case. Somebody says, hey, we're investigating Hunty. They make the decision, we better join this. So DOJ tax, DOJ, IRS, and FBI, they all are going to join in on this thing, run it out of Delaware. Perfect. That's David Weiss. Delaware is where Joe Biden thinks he's got total control. A couple months fly by, May happens. IRS and FBI cases are officially joined in Delaware. For some reason, prosecutors deny the IRS's requests to follow the IRS policy of allowing Hunter to be interviewed. So once you open an investigation, policy says interview the person, the subject, within 30 days. Prosecutors deny that. Sorry, they say no. The case needs to remain covert in order to preserve evidence for the FBI. That's the first overt act of obstruction, isn't it? Why did they deny that? Footnote 6. Policy says you talk to the subject within 30 days. They didn't do that. Obstruction. At signing of his first electronic search warrant, magistrate judge makes inappropriate comment. All right, so now they're in there investigating the case. The judge makes a bad comment. Probably says, I can't believe you're investigating Hunter. Don't you have better things to do like investigate Trump? God. And they say, Judge, you can't talk like that. What's wrong with you? And she says, you're right. I better recuse myself. So then the case hangs around in limbo. The IRS spends 4 months drafting executing new warrants and recompleting new investigative steps. So the judge throws a wrench in the gears, and the entire thing now gets delayed 4 months. Thanks, Judge. Summer 2019 comes around. Remember, Trump's in office. This is all pre-pandemic. Here, Baltimore field office leadership, they begin getting more involved. Baltimore's looking into it. Albuquerque receives the first report that Hunter's laptop is in the Delaware computer repair shop. Now, look how far back this is, okay? October 16, 2019. FBI, they get the first report Hunter's laptop is MIA. FBI sends a special agent, Josh Wilson. He heads over there. He gets device numbers. He confirms ownership. He goes, crap, yeah, they've got it. So the special agent Ziegler, one of the IRS whistleblowers, he says, perfect. They got it. They've got the laptop. All right, let's draft a search warrant, and I'm going to draft the affidavit. Boom. Search warrant's executed. FBI Baltimore field office, they take custody of the laptop and the hard drive. That is December 9th, 2019. And this is where the media starts getting concerned, or social media in particular. The FBI starts telling them about a hack and leak operation from Russia. They know that's fake because they've got possession in 2019. Special Agent Ziegler obtains from a judge a search warrant for Hunter's laptop, and the FBI images Hunter Biden's external hard drives in Delaware. They've got it. December, FBI computer analysis provides images of the hard drives to the forensics labs. That's at the end of 2019. Year changes. We're now in 2020. Guess who gets assigned to Hunter's case? Gary Shapley, the man we heard testify. You may have heard him speak many times. We've covered him a lot here. January 6, 2020, FBI lab begins to analyze Hunter's hard drive. So early 2020 now, a prosecutor called Jamie McCall decides to leave the Delaware attorney's office. Jamie leaves, and guess who gets put in charge? Leslie Wolf. Because of the Iowa presidential caucuses on the February 3rd date, prosecutors tell investigators that asking to interview Hunter that they need to wait and see what happens in the caucuses. Obstruction 2. Why do you need to wait and see? That's interesting. Why does the outcome of the caucuses matter? Hunter Biden's not running for president, as they always tell us. Hunter Biden's not an elected official, as they always scream to us. So why did that matter at all to the DOJ? Shouldn't. Of course, Trump running for president doesn't matter to them. They don't give a crap about anything that Trump, what's one thing got to do with the other? Trump should read 10 million pages of discovery in 2 minutes and then be ready for trial in March. They don't give him a delay at all. So that's an overt act of obstruction number 2. Who made that decision? What prosecutors tell the investigators to wait? And what does it matter? It's because they're corrupt and unethical. Different standard that applies to them than it does to Trump. A couple days go by, a week later. February 10th, the FBI completes a filter review of Hunter's laptop, and they begin the relevancy review for evidence. So they screen it. Was there any attorney-client privileged information here? Is there anything that we can't look at? Nope. All right, now let's look at it. Attorney General Bill Barr publicly confirms that in Pittsburgh, the attorney's office has been assigned to vet information that Rudy had also provided relating to Biden's and Ukraine. Okay, so on the same day, FBI starts to actually look at the evidence, and Bill Barr is also going to look at Rudy's evidence, which is probably the same stuff. February 29th happens. VP Joe wins in South Carolina. Uh-oh, they're getting nervous. FBI then, in March, a couple days later, receives the image of the laptop and the external hard drive. They've got it now in their possession. 4 days later, FBI conducts a forensic exam, and Joe Biden wins more primaries. FBI's investigating. Joe Biden wins in Michigan. March 31st, investigators then are now emailing the U.S. Attorney Wolf about the quality and the completeness of the Hunter laptop. They say, hey, Prosecutor Wolf, have you looked at it? FBI Josh Wilson personally accepts evidence from the Hunter Biden laptop in April, and then the computer analysis team sends a Cellbrite report of Hunter's laptop back over to Delaware. Then in May and June, FBI people in Pittsburgh are reviewing records at the request of the U.S. attorneys, specifically about the FD 1023. They discover the FD 1023, and it mentions Burisma. So then there's a months-long fight to get the relevant agent to re-interview the confidential human source, right? This is a whole month deal. U.S. Attorney's Office discovers the FD 1023, mentions Hunter. Should we re-interview that person? Prosecutors are probably telling him, no, don't. On June 5th, former VP Joe receives enough delegates to win the nomination. So you see how this is working? Like, this is why this is so beautiful, because it juxtaposes everything together. It intertwines it. Now you can see specifically why these people at the FBI and the DOJ are freaking out. A months-long fight to review the information. They're like, Joe's gonna beat Trump. Oh my gosh, we can't let this information come out. He's winning. Like, he's gonna win the nomination. We're in big trouble. So Shapley and Ziegler met with the supervisory chain up through the IRS, and they tell him that the DOJ tax has made a concerted effort to drag their feet concerning the conducting of search warrants and interviewing key witnesses. charges. Of course they are, because Joe's going to win. They got to keep this stuff out of the news. So in June, the FBI re-interviews a confidential human source who alleges Burisma bribed both Hunter and Joe in 2015. June 26, FBI interviews a confidential human source, and this is from a Grassley PDF. This is from Chuck Grassley. FBI knows about this. This is months before the election. June 29th, 3 days later, they say, do you have more information about this? He says, sure, happy to get it to you. CHS provides the FBI with supplemental information. Yeah, here you go. You going to talk about it? Of course not. The FBI then, in June, they interview a CHS. It's recorded. We have a new FD 1023. And Pittsburgh corroborates some of the claims in the FD 1023. From July to August, they say, yeah, it all adds up. Then in late August and early September, the IRS receives results from an electronic search warrant of Hunter Biden's iCloud backup, including his WhatsApp messages. IRS requests to further investigate Hunter for this text message. I am sitting here with my father, Z. And guess what? They are denied. Late August, September 2020. Why? Well, election's right around the corner. We're voting in November. IRS then proposes to get location data to first establish the probable cause for the interview, but is still denied. What do you mean? No, that's not enough. One text message? No. Okay, well, how about we go get the interview? I'm sorry, the actual location data so we can pinpoint where he was. What if we get Joe Biden, who was at the vice presidential residence at that time, and Hunter is also there? Then is that enough probable cause for you that we can investigate it? If we can put him in the same room? Nope. Still denied. Another obstruction. Okay, all of this stuff, like these people who were involved in this, the question is why? Why are they bending the rules for them? Donald Trump, they say he can't even read his defense discovery, for crying out loud. Like, there are no delays for him. They raided his house, but they don't raid other people's houses. They want to interview all of these people. Hunter gets a pass. Here, in September 2020 now, the prosecutors have a meeting. U.S. Attorney Wolf says investigators, she says, hey, everybody, guess what? We can't search the Biden Delaware residence because of optics. It's bad optics. That's interesting. They raided Trump's house, didn't care about optics. Even though she acknowledges that there is probable cause and a lot of evidence in the investigation would be found there. See that? A government prosecutor, months before an election, is telling her own criminal investigators, I agree with you, there is probable cause. I agree with you, there's going to be a lot of evidence there, but can't do it because it's Joe Biden and we need him to beat Trump. So prosecutors decide to remove Hunter Biden's name from another electronic search warrant. So we've got obstruction right here. Can't go do our jobs. Prosecutor Wolf deviates the investigation. Prosecutors, again, decide to remove Hunter Biden's name from search warrants. Ziegler, who's been a special agent there, says removing Biden's name seemed unethical, but it's ignored. They don't want it showing up on public dockets. They don't want people out there doing oppositional research to find out about this investigation into Hunter. It's September. We got an election soon. September 4th, Deputy Attorney General Donahue issues instructions that all politically sensitive cases must refrain from overt activity until after the general election. See how that goes? So on the 3rd, probably what I'm guessing happened is Wolf freaks out. She says, hey man, I just had a meeting with the rest of these investigators. This is going off the rails. So then the Deputy Attorney General says, okay, the very next day, we're done on politically sensitive cases until after the election, which is a very convenient rule for their side, since the investigation is into Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, specifically with Burisma. In the prosecution team call, Wolf communicates the stand down instructions. She says, hey, you guys are done. She says the DOJ is under fire. It's self-inflicted, but the DOJ needs to repair its reputation. So we're literally not going to prosecute Hunter until after the election. And it's all political, okay? Under fire for what? Being an illegitimate institution? Well, this is why, Wolf, the DOJ is under fire, is because of people like you who are prejudicing and biasing investigations. So that is what happens. All of the investigators are like, well, we would have liked to have filed charges months ago, but you didn't let us months ago. In September, at the prosecution team meeting, the FBI states only 5 interviews should be done in the case so that the FBI management can assess what it wants to do. The IRS then learns that the FBI case agent had only recently moved back to his hometown of Wilmington and was concerned about the consequences for him if they conducted sensitive interviews. So that even the case agent is going back to Wilmington and he's freaked that he's going to get harassed. So in October, New York Post first publishes the report about the Hunter Biden laptop, totally factually true. In a call with Twitter, then the FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force, the same guy, Elvis Chan, we've talked about here previously, who now got a subpoena from the FBI to show up and explain this stuff. In a call, Fidiff is questioned about the authenticity of the laptop. And mind you, the FBI had the laptop all the way back in 2019. And by this time, as the timeline communicated, they knew what was on it. They knew it was real. They've done all the forensic analysis. They've done the filtering and everything. One FBI analyst begins to confirm its authenticity, but he's then interrupted to say the FBI had no comment. Okay, so another obstruction on that one. One FBI analyst says, yeah, it's true, it's real. It's public, it's all out there now. But then no comment, FBI. Twitter then says, oh, well, they said no comment, and we hate Donald Trump, and this would be terrible for Joe Biden. So let's just call it Russian disinfo. They censored the story and banned a bunch of people. October 19, 2020, Shapley emails Prosecutor Wolf requesting information on the laptop, but DOJ Tax denies the next day the IRS a permission to do a walk-by of Hunter's residence. You can't even go walk by it. October 22nd, there is now a special meeting about Hunter's laptop. Prosecution is meeting with the FBI's computer analysis team. We're right around the corner from the election, like less than a month away, days away. Prosecutor Wolf tells investigators that data on the laptop had been corroborated and that there was no reason to believe that it had been manipulated by any third party, which she knew from the very beginning. However, she says prosecutors have, for quote, a variety of reasons, decided to keep the full laptop from the investigators. Okay, so Shapley and others, they can't even see the full thing. Another obstruction. Why would the prosecutors not give the investigators the evidence? In a prosecution team call, Wolf says that Weiss agreed there is probable cause for a search warrant and that evidence would be there, but prosecutors decided you don't get a search warrant. We're not going to get that for you. Why? October 23rd, Pittsburgh and FBI agents, they brief Prosecutor Wolf about the CHS information and the FD 1023. They say that there's evidence that Burisma bribed Hunter and Joe. Hey, Wolf, do you know this? The investigators request to participate in the briefing, but they're denied. Nope, you guys don't get to hear any of this. And the information from the briefing is not shared with the IRS investigators. So Wolf and people at the DOJ were cordoning off the investigation so that these IRS people just couldn't see it. And that's right before the election. Then guess what happens? November 10th, 2020, after the election happens, U.S. Attorney Weiss informs the prosecution team of the day of action for overt activity. That it's delayed. That's right. After the election, they say, nope, we can't do our day of action. So we can't go and show you what we're about to do because we have a contested election. In November, the investigators wanted to go overt so that they could actually start conducting interviews. Prosecution had a team meeting in December that planned the interview outlines. Wolf, again, rejects plans to ask questions about Joe Biden. Says there's no criminality to that line of questioning, so don't ask about Joe. Election is still being contested. December 7th, FBI headquarters notifies the Secret Service and the Biden transition team that there's going to be interviews of Hunter the next day. All right. Their day of action was scheduled for December 8th. December 7th, FBI warns Secret Service about day of action. Obstruction. Why are people not immediately fired for this or investigated or hauled in front of Congress? I don't know. December 8th, the day of action, where the IRS and the FBI investigators issued document requests. They wanted to interview Hunter and 11 associates, but here's what happened. Shapley and Gordon, two agents from the IRS and the FBI, they wait outside Hunter's residence waiting for a phone call from him, but nothing happens. Hunter's defense attorneys later call investigators to say Hunter declines to be interviewed and we're now going to be talking to you. So they get stopped. FBI and IRS special agents in Arkansas, they successfully interview Rob Walker. 9 other potential witnesses like Kathleen Booley, Hallie Biden, James and Sarah Biden, they all are warned and they all decline interviews because they got notified, obviously. Everybody's sending their family group texts. The feds are here. Ziegler prepares a search warrant for a Northern Virginia storage unit where we know that Hunter stored papers while his Owasco office was closed. Okay, so if they can't do the interviews, if they got tipped off on that, maybe they can go and just take a look at the storage facility. Guess what? December 9th, Hunter issues a statement. He's confirming that he's under investigation. And then Wolf sends an email to Ziegler, one of the investigators, saying, hey, if you want a search warrant for the storage unit, you've got to go through multiple layers of approval. You got to check with DOJ and you got to check with other U.S. attorneys' offices. Of course, they didn't do that, or they didn't. Maybe they did do that. Here, prosecution team meets to discuss the next step. Prosecutor Wolf objects to executing the search warrant, which had never happened. So then Wolf forwards U.S. Attorney Weiss a New York Times article. And the New York Times article that the prosecutor sends to David Weiss is material from Giuliani spurred a separate Justice Department pursuit of Hunter. Election still being contested. December 14th, IRS Special Agent in Charge Kelly Jackson and Shapley, they have a call with U.S. Attorney Weiss about the storage unit search warrant. Weiss approves if the storage unit isn't accessed for 30 days. If it's abandoned, you can go get it. But soon thereafter, investigators learn that Wolf and the DOJ tax attorney, Mark Daly, had called Hunter's defense attorneys and told them about the storage unit so that they could empty it. The Department of Justice warning criminal defendants under criminal investigation about interviews and about search warrants. It's about as criminal as you could get. I mean, that would be illegal if anybody else was doing it. But as we know, in 2000, 2021, Joe Biden was sworn into office, unfortunately for America, and the DOJ announces that David Weiss is going to remain on the case. He's going to continue the Hunter Biden investigation because it's been successful so far. It's been totally under control, and they snuck it under the radar for years to hide it from the American people. So if you want to read the rest of the timeline, of course, I encourage you to do that. Go over to Empower Oversight, and they'll walk you through the rest of the years on this one. But absolutely outstanding work chronicling what happened here. And this is Tristan Leavitt, one of the gentlemen who is over at empower.us. He was having a conversation with Catherine Herridge saying, you know, now Hunter's lawyers are suing the IRS, saying that the IRS breached their clients' rights and so on and so forth. But as we can see here, there was multiple layers of obstruction and interference with this investigation from day one. Here is Tristan Leavitt.
As an attorney for the IRS whistleblowers, what do you make of the timing of this lawsuit?
Again, I think it's very alarming that it comes right after the Wall Street Journal reported that the White House wanted to see these investigators prosecuted. Of course, it also comes in the context of an impeachment inquiry, but that's for Congress to pursue on its own. For us, you know, this is something that, again, I think serves to help chill other whistleblowers from going to Congress, which might be relevant to them in their impeachment inquiry.
As an attorney for the IRS whistleblowers,
we'll see what Congress does with all of this, but man, there is so much evidence there. It's just outstanding. And it's not necessarily Joe Biden had his bank account filled with Hunter Biden corrupt Burisma money, but every one of those agents in charge, every single person who was a part of this, right, they kept, and a lot of that was taking place during the Trump administration. It carries over into this new administration, and those people and the enabling of those people by Joe Biden and Merrick Garland, who then now is appointed David Weiss, the same guy who did all of that. They doubled down on it. They rubber stamped it and they've owned it. And now we can see it on full display in a beautiful timeline. And so we'll see what Congress does. They're going to continue to investigate. We know James Comer says that they're looking at the bank accounts now for Hunter and Joe. We'll see if they get them.